Hello and welcome to the ministry. This is Taj McCameron, and today we're beginning a somewhat I call a 4-part series, but each video might be broken down in anywhere from 1 to 3 parts. It all depends on how, as I'm going through the material, it does its breakdown with how lengthy it is and so on and so forth, because I want to make sure that I'm expressing what I'm saying with the best format of the way it's supposed to be. So, okay, I told you guys before I was going to do it. I said I was going to do it, and now I'm doing it. I told you before I was going to do a breakdown for kingdom marriages in relation to my old show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, a lot of people, this is the disclaimer, listen closely. We are mature adults here and have to have the understanding that the reason that I'm doing it this way is because I see in the maturity of watching this show exactly the spiritual ramifications of what I'm saying. Okay? I see it. Some might say, oh, it's full of such demons, demonology, and witchcraft, and so on and so forth. Yes. But I'm using it as an example because of the fact that some people can't understand demons, demonology, the fact that witchcraft exists, and you may need a visual representation. All Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a visual representation, making what was spiritual look real. Okay? With that being said, it's not just about the demons, but it's about the people involved in it, and so on and so forth. Some people could sit up there and talk about the relationships and all of this, but I'm using this as a outline in order to be able to get you to better understand what I'm saying. Am I going to be sitting there referencing the names of every character for every single thing? No. Because this isn't really particularly about the show at all. It's about me using something that you can understand and visually see. But I'm explaining the biblical ramifications of each of these things. Okay? So let me get that out the way first. God will speak through anything. He will use anything to speak. Okay? And you will be able to understand what I'm saying when I start to dig in. Some people may feel offended by some of the stuff I'm going to say, but that's because you really just need to gain understanding. Because what I'm speaking from is a place of understanding with an outline. All this is an outline. The offense may come in because I may be tapping on your door. Okay? You may be able to find yourself in what I'm saying, which is a good thing, because when you find yourself in it, you'll be able to follow and be able to figure out how to stop doing what it is that's leading you in the wrong direction. Because we're starting off today talking about the female prodigal. Okay? Alright. We've already gone through about 14 minutes. So, let's begin. while I start to go into the biblical reference. What is a prodigal? A prodigal is the person that pretty much, if you go into the word and read the story of the prodigal son, the son wanted all of the benefits of the father's inheritance without waiting until after the father had passed. He took the information, he took the money, and he went out into the world, and the world pretty much took everything from him. But because he was so embarrassed, he did not want to come back to his father's house. So he went and he started to integrate himself by selling himself short to a farmer and allowing the farmer to use him, and he was literally out there in the slop with the pigs. When it got bad, he made the decision, I'm going back to my father's house, because at least if I'm demoted in my father's house, I'll be able to hang out with the servants. So he turned around and went back to his father's house, assuming that his father was going to be so angry at him that he was going to end up out there with the pigs. Or shall I say out there with the servants. But when his father saw him coming upon the horizon, his father immediately met him with a hug, and before he could say anything in his own defense, feeling below his royal standing, his father said, here, clean him up, give him his royal robes back, give him his rings, give him everything. And the other brother that was sitting there with the father the whole time that this brother was gone said, why didn't you do that for me? Why is it that he's getting all that? And the father said, it wasn't that you couldn't have it, it was the fact that you never asked for it. Okay? So what does this have to do with the prodigal female? The prodigal female is the one that leaves the covering of the father, goes out and does whatever she want to do. You can look in the Bible and look at any of the cases. You can say you're Rahab, who was out there prostituting. You could say you're Mary, the one that washed Jesus' feet. But when she came back to the Lord with an offering, washing Jesus' feet with the oils that she had used all of her money to get to put in that alabaster box, specifically as a gift to Jesus. So she came back with a gift for Jesus, okay? And she came as in a loving, caring space with God, okay? Even if you go and you look at, is it the Shunammite woman? The woman at the well. She was who Jesus found at the well, and he asked her for a drink of water, and he thereby read her all of the sins in which she had committed by sleeping with multiple different men, and she was married to a few of them, but the last one that she was with when Jesus met her, she wasn't even married to him. So The prodigals are usually the women that are operating in sin before they come back and find Jesus. You could even consider, in a way, the woman with the issue of blood, who pressed her way into the crowd to touch the hem of Jesus' garment. All of these women came to Jesus. They all had a come to Jesus moment, just like the prodigal. The prodigal eventually came back to God, or his father. Okay? So, with the female prodigal, we're looking at a woman. This is a woman that is actually ordained by God to be married to a specific person. But because she will not give her life to God, she cannot meet or maintain the relationship with her ordained partner. The whole point of this series is showing you. I'm not talking about the TV show, I'm talking about the series that I'm speaking about of ordained relationship or God ordained relationship, is the fact that you have, whether you're looking at the female prodigal or the male prodigal, they will not get in alignment with the will of God for their life. Okay? So they keep going around in circles and cycles because they refuse to give in to the will of the Father for their life. Okay? And because they refuse to give in to the will of God for their life, they are struggling. A blessing given too soon is the equivalent of being a curse. A blessing given too soon is the equivalent of giving a curse. Okay? So, as we walk through from the female prodigal to the male prodigal and the two together in their ordained relationship, but too soon, we will discover the different phases and places of that you may even be in your walk with God. Some of you may not be walking with God yet. Some of you may be walking with God. Some of you may be the female prodigal, meaning if you're the female prodigal, meaning you may be walking, but you see God trying to call you. Or maybe you call yourself walking with God because you go to church, you potentially read your word when you feel like it, you this, that, and the other. But you're not walking with God. That means you're not wholeheartedly devoted, fully in obedience, walking with the Lord. Okay? That means you've given up your thoughts, your processes, the way you think things should go, the things that are going on in your life that are not in alignment with the way that you desire for life to be. And things will not go in alignment with the way that life is supposed to be, because it says in the Word, "For you do not know the things that I have for you. I want to give you the way, the truth, and the light." My thoughts are not your thoughts. My will is not your will. Okay? So because of that, the prodigal thinks that she gonna do what she wanna do and not follow the Lord's will. I've heard this from other women that are devoting their lives to God now. What they felt when they went through their prodigal seasons. If you are following God to the degree that you are fully in obedience to the Lord, sorry to say you operated as prodigal, even if you thought that you were by going to church. If you're going to church and you're not following his way, if you're going to read the word but you're not following his will, you're still a prodigal. Sorry. If you're still out here drinking, smoking, and acting a fool, cussing and acting like an idiot, sorry, was that too harsh? You are not following his way. Are we still human? Absolutely. But you gotta learn to walk in the Lord's will. Everybody has their own walk. Everybody's going to walk their own walk. But that doesn't mean God won't use you even in your disobedience. Because he will recognize the flaws within you and use those flaws, that at least if you are still willing to speak about God to somebody, you may catch somebody directly where you are that say, I get you. I know what you're saying. And you may bring them into Christ from that place. Even if you ain't completely sold out yet. Because there's a level of being sold out to Jesus which goes from, I love on God but I'm still in my dirt. Then I'm loving on God and I'm surrendered to God. Then there's the level that's extreme, which turns you into a Pharisee. That means that you are very law driven, can't do nothing, nobody can be outside of that box. What we talking about right now is that person that's, they may love on Jesus, but they just not quite all the way there yet. And we're going to walk through her, what this looks like. And some of y'all going to agree with me. Some of y'all not going to agree with me. But we're going to walk through who she is. Alright? And it's maybe a little tough. So sit back, relax as much as you can as we begin to go through who she is. Alright? The female prodigal. The female prodigal, first thing is, the female prodigal is going to resist. She's going to find the one she's meant to be with to be annoying, because it's her ordained spouse and she will be drawn to him. The female prodigal, let's just be honest, she's rebellious. She is one that is not going to truly desire to walk with God, and she is going to be a type of woman that is, pardon that, I believe somebody is trying to sing, but they can't. Whoo. I'm going to try to focus here. I think she went inside. Anyway, but the female prodigal is going to resist who she's ordained to be with. It's like when we first start to walk with the Lord, we resist it. When I first started my walk with God, I've always really been with God. The problem was I wasn't walking with God. I learned how to pray from my mother. I learned how to pray as a child. I went to church when my mother went to church. I went to church when my father went to church. I can count on maybe 1 to 2 hands how many times I went to church growing up. Maybe about 5 to 7 times. So I've always known of God. I watched my mother pray. I watched my mother pray over her finances. My mother was not one that just truly was out here doing anything wrong. But I also watched in my family, there was a division. My mother wanted to go into the Mormon belief, and my father was Baptist. My father got baptized when I was 12 years old. So I know of church. But when it comes down to it, you kind of have to find your balance. This can be difficult, but it's good in a way because it allows you the ability to find your way to God. And all the female prodigal is doing is finding her way to God. But she may resist the authority of God. Why? Very simple. Trust issues. What the enemy will do in a lot of cases when he wants to resist you from getting to God is he will bring every male in your life to destroy your trust. Whether it be the father figure, whether it be the boyfriend figure, whether it be the any male in your life, whether it even just be a guy friend, they will betray your trust in some sort of way. That you may even run into a man that will be either abusive, sexually abusive, or you just have bad experiences with men. In order to love the Lord, you have to separate him from the men in your life. So when a prodigal meets the ordained spouse, if she has yet to separate God from the rest of the men that she's had to deal with in her life, she's not going to recognize her God ordained spouse. More than likely, she's going to rebel against it. Now, caveat. There are certain situations that you may find yourself in that will cause the male to look like the antithesis of what you would want to be with. Now, this can be because you spiritually are not where you need to be able to see him for who he is. Same can happen vice versa for the man. But also there can be interference. There can be witchcraft interference because anytime you start to turn towards the one you're meant to be with, there is witchcraft interference that may be initiated because the devil does not want to see marriages happen at all. So he can put some type of an interference between the two by throwing a young woman named Stephanie P. that I listen to. She does great videos on spiritual warfare. Talks about they will throw spells at you that will try to separate you from the God-ordained spouse by making you see the God-ordained spouse in a light that they are not in. Then they will, when they want to attract you to someone else, because maybe somebody paid a witch to try to get your attention away from the one that you were supposed to be with, whether it's a witch or warlock, and they want to lead you to get into alignment with a counterfeit that is potentially obsessed with you. So the counterfeit with a Jezebelic spirit on them may try to have a witch do a spell such as a splitting spell to split the connection between you and your God-ordained spouse by having you see the God-ordained spouse in a different light, then replace it with a love spell. So by severing the tie between you and your God-ordained spouse with a splitting spell, and then putting a love spell on you simultaneously, because most times these two things must be done at the exact same time in order to reroute your attention. The devil don't be playing, because we as children of God, we gotta walk with God, and we gotta walk closely, because the enemy ain't out here playing. The enemy worship his gods 24/7. Sometimes we don't worship our God 6 hours a day. That's why we're supposed to pray and pray fervently all day long, because the enemy don't never stop. And the time that we stop, he's still doing it. God still cover us, because he is God, and faith without works is dead. But sometimes the Lord will allow us the ability to rest. In certain seasons, yes, we must be up, we must be fighting, we must be in the midst, we must be in the trenches. But in other cases, it's not necessary, because the Lord himself is covering you and preventing these things from taking over and affecting and attacking you. Do not be afraid of witchcraft, because it's under your feet. But you just need to know about it. You need to understand about it, and you need to understand to pray in relation to it. And also, you may also be dealing with bloodline curses. If you don't have your bloodline curses cleared, you may not be able to recognize or see your God-ordained spouse for who they are. Okay? So you will resist. Which brings me to the next line. She will want to feel free and not want to tie herself down to him. The thing about a God-ordained spouse is they're almost your identical mirror. They mirror you in all of the places, good and bad, that you have. And in them mirroring you, it's actually scary, because you have to face the parts of yourself that you've been ignoring. Good, bad, ugly, and indifferent. And a lot of people don't want to do that. I heard a professor put it this way several years ago, and this professor is an ordained minister now. She wasn't then. She put it this way. She says that a lot of us have issues, and we like noise. And I've noticed this. People that tend to like a lot of noise is trying to distract from the deep thoughts and deep things that need to be dealt with in their minds and their bodies. But instead of dealing with them, they try to cover them with noise and ignore them. Because if they got silent, sat down in a corner, and started to unpack those things, they could actually get clarity and become free from what it is that they're dealing with. A lot of people are not willing to do that. Okay? And what a God-ordained spouse is to a prodigal female is exactly that. They are the reflection of everything they need to fix in their life. And because they ain't ready to do it, they don't want to deal with them. They don't want to deal with them. They don't want to see them. They don't want nothing in relation to them. No. They're like, I'm done. I'm not. With that being said, moving into the next thing. She will rebel really badly, going as far as to entertain friends and other men that you won't even remember the names of or faces, because they didn't mean anything. This is classic essence of avoidance. This is when she will start to date counterfeits that have nothing to do with what she's called to, where she's going, because she wants to feel free. I want to feel free. So I'm not going to date somebody that's actually going to make me face myself. I want to date that person that is very mediocre, very mundane, makes me feel okay, but they ain't about it like that because they're that average guy. Because you're not going to put no pressure on me to be who I'm supposed to be. That's what a female prodigal would do. Female prodigal go out there and get that counterfeit that is easy. But they know they ain't right because they have no gumption. They have no that thing that pulls them in to make them like, yeah, you the one. But the one will pull them in automatically. The one has that energy on them that will automatically pull at their heartstrings, pull at them completely, and they just like, I like you, but the energy and the intensity of the pull is what makes them rebel, because they feel like they aren't in control. And the prodigal wants to feel in control. And when you don't feel like you're in control, you rebel. How many of y'all as Christians, when y'all first started your journey, when you realized all of the rules and the things that the Lord was sending you into, you started to rebel? You telling me I can no longer do that? You telling me I can no longer do that? You telling me I can no longer do that? No longer drinking, no longer having sex, no longer doing, if you did drugs, no longer, even if the drug was as light as smoking weed, no more fermented drinks, no. Now some would say, oh well, Jesus, he drank the red wine from the fermented grapes. Alright, then fine. Drink your red wine. Now, I ain't out here about to be pharisaical with y'all. But that was for communion. Some people be out here, I'm gonna throw it back every single day. I'm gonna throw 3 or 5 of these back. Gluttony is not good, okay? Don't sit up there and try to find and weasel your way around. We're coming into the end of this particular part. We're going to pick up in part 2.